This video is World Transition Part 3, describing the combination of 5 grahas, planets, lined up that start the Earth's shift into a new age, Satyug. Rahu, Ketu, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars. There are many strange things going on in the world today. It's all because the dark age of Kali Yuga is dying, and with it, all of the old structures and systems, including government, they're all dying. I told everyone before the midterm election that a blue wave would make no difference, that a blue wave election will not solve anything, that there will only be a fight. And as I said, when Ketu changed signs on March 23rd, the fight would begin. And on that day, Mueller released his report and the battle began. First, there were delays, and Attorney General William Barr refused to give Congress the report, even though it is their lawful right to see it. Then, Barr lied about the findings of the report, and the battle intensified. Now, Barr says he will not appear before Congress anymore. And Rump says his people will not testify, and they will not honor any subpoenas. Now Trump wants a 2-year extension on his first term, a 6-year term. Our government, in important ways, has stopped working, and it's now under the control of a dictator, making use of court delays to get his way. The executive branch is destroying the legislative branch, and Trump has loaded the judicial branch with Trumpites. Only half of the legislative branch, the House of Representatives, remains. And very soon the nation is going to explode. In this video, I'll give you the date the explosion begins. Jupiter, Guru, represents the United States because it owns the first house of the United States. It is damaged right now in the 12th house of the United States, which is the house of death. So that damaged Jupiter brings damage to the United States as a whole. Except for a brief period of transformation over the border of the house where we find Ketu and Saturn, Jupiter will be in the 12th house of death of the United States until October 2019. Jupiter in the 12th adds another layer of destruction to the effects of Rahu, Ketu, and Saturn, which are already creating their destruction. And simultaneously, we will see an awakening in the nation's consciousness. Ketu, Saturn, and Jupiter in the sign of the Seeker, Sagittarius, Dhanushi, all do this together. Now it's about to get reinforcement. Jupiter also rules the 4th house, which brings the fall of government, natural disasters, earthquakes, and war. Add this to the work of the other slow-moving planets. We have watched a slow disintegration of our government since about 2 years ago, when Saturn entered the first house of the United States. And Saturn is slow, but coming up, there's going to be a sudden explosion of violence that will start a tidal wave of destruction worldwide. A house cleaning, really, because we are the most powerful nation. As the United States goes, so goes the world. Here's the chart for the evening of May 6th. That's today. In the lower left, you see Saturn, Shani, and Ketu in Dhanushi, Sagittarius. Destructive Mars, Mangal, is about to join destructive Rahu on May 6th and will be affected by destructive Saturn, casting its rays onto both Mars and Rahu. As you can see, Mars and Ketu cast their rays onto each other and damage each other. Mars will be in Kritika Nakshatra. That's the first 13 or so degrees of that sign. And it has its own ruler and its own special qualities, which can be similar or different from that sign, that whole sign as a whole. Kritika transforms. It cuts away what is unnecessary. It is violence and war. It's a fire that burns impurities to create perfection. When Mars leaves Rahu on June 22nd, it is still damaged because it will be Nicha, debilitated. Mars moves faster than the other damaged planets in this scheme, so it acts as a trigger. Mars with Rahu is another layer of destruction in the transition our planet is going through to create the golden age of Satyug. And there's reinforcement for these predictions, as if by the hand of God, in the Navamsha chart, for the moment Mars joins Rahu, the chart in the upper right, we have a similar situation. There, Ketu is again with Saturn, and Mars is casting its rays onto Rahu. Rather than being conjunct with it, it's still affecting Rahu. And just as it is in the main chart of that moment, the ruler of the first house is in the 12th house of death in the Navamsha. In this case, that's Mercury. And Mercury is with Rahu. Chaos like this happens when you move from a neutral state to a state of perfect order. And the same thing happens in physics. There's a brief period of molecular chaos before liquid helium cools and becomes a superfluid and exhibits qualities of the infinite. A chaotic transition is an inescapable law of nature. We are watching it begin right now. I'll end with a quote from Maharishi, who said, "Satyug will come 2020 to 2025. The exact time depends upon world consciousness." That is to say, some will experience Satyug early, and some will have to wait. So spread the news, share, subscribe, and get the ebook to see the details of what Satyug is going to be like. It is beyond human imagination. It's at my website, rickvade.org.